Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Rumour Review with Odds Changer. The transfer window is quickly approaching its climax with less than a week for clubs to get their deals done. Sporting directors up and down the country busy on their phones trying to get those players through the doors. Plenty of money has already changed hands, but this is now the time when we see some last minute deals and deals that we probably didn't see happen come to fruition. I'm delighted to be joined by football intermediary Jamie Holsgrove to discuss all the latest comings and goings and look at any late potential transfer deals. Hi Jamie, thanks for coming on board.
Hi Pete, how you doing? Thanks for inviting us on the podcast. Good to see you.
I'm sure you're busy, mate, and I'm hopefully you've got that phone on silent while we've got this podcast on. I'm sure the calls are coming in.
I'm looking at it now. It's on silent just for you, pal.
Yeah, good man. Yeah, expecting a busy last final week then, or how do you see this transfer? How did you rate it so far?
Well, I think coming on the back end of the last season, I think a lot of clubs were taking the opportunity to try and get a head start, take a long, hard look at themselves, find out where they were short and try and make preparations, probably in-house and in the transfer market as well. And, if you look at someone, for example, like Everton, who's gone out and brought in a couple of key signings, had a great start to the season, you can see, it's paid off for some and not for others. So for us, we've had a couple of deals already knocked back because the valuations on the players are in part accepted, but we're bound by some form of salary caps and these type of things on the players' side. So there is a balancing act to carry out, and certainly if you look at some of the big transfer news at the moment, it's playing its hand in that as well, isn't it? Let's looking at Manchester United and Sancho.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's been a tough time in the market, I think, financially because of COVID having such a dramatic effect on clubs' finances. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of movement before Monday's transfer deadline day. And one player who strongly being linked with a move away or before the deadline is Chelsea's Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Frank Lampard has openly admitted he is willing to let him go out on loan just to get first-team football. Chelsea obviously have been one of the busiest clubs in this transfer window, bringing in some top signings. So his first-team opportunities are probably set to be limited at Stamford Bridge this season. But yeah, strange one this for me, Jamie. I think Loftus-Cheek, top player for me, England international as well. Do you think it's the right move for him to go out on loan?
Oh, fantastic player. I mean, obviously any agent would love to have Ruben as a client. I can't speak for him personally, but looking at him come through Chelsea as a trainee, first professional, got into the England squad every level. A fantastic player. I think his best season was 2018-19. I think he scored 10 goals. Signed a new contract to 2024. So obviously he's looking now. I think he was injured, wasn't he? He had an Achilles problem, which he's probably well and truly over now. But I would imagine from Frank Lampard's perspective, he's looking at him going, well, is he really 100% ready for us for this campaign? And maybe we can bring in somebody. He signed a 5-year contract. Maybe we can bring someone else in and he's okay and let him go and play his football somewhere else. But yeah, I think he's a fantastic player. He's Chelsea through and through. You'd expect him to do a fantastic job for someone like West Ham or Southampton. I think he's been linked with. Already they've let Barkley go as well, and I think Lampard's looking to release a few players to create a bit of space, as they all are at the moment. Move 5 out to bring 1 in and reduce the wage bill, all that type of thing. So, yeah, fantastic player. I think he'll do well in the Premier League, but certainly for Chelsea this season, it might not be the right one.
Yeah, he won't be short of options, I'm sure, as you said. Southampton being linked with him. We've also had the likes of Fulham, possibly Brighton. We also had possibly Aston Villa being in for him, but it seems that one won't be happening now. They've brought in Ross Barkley, so they can't bring in 2 Premier League loans as part of the rules. Who do you think would be a good fit for Loftus-Cheek if he were to move?
Well, you could look at any of the teams who've just got promoted, whether or not they would fit his style of play. He's an exciting box-to-box midfielder, for his size, and someone who can get around the pitch as much as he can. Obviously, when you come through, you've got to think about your England position as well. You think, is it a realistic chance of getting back in the England squad? The Euros are coming up. He's got to be thinking about all these things. But I think the best thing he can do is just go out and play his football, whether it's a West Brom, a Sheffield United, or probably Southampton would suit him better, wouldn't it, down on the south coast? There's some good connections down there. So yeah, I could probably see him going down to West Ham or Southampton probably.
Yeah, I think those two clubs be right up his street as well. I think from what I'm hearing, wages could be an issue. He's on big money at Chelsea, but I think, again, in this current market, to get a player of the calibre of Loftus-Cheek on loan would be a good sign for any of those interested clubs. Well, we'll move on then to the club that's dominating this transfer window, probably for the wrong reasons. Manchester United, their transfer strategy is getting bombed all over the place. A lot of critics of what's happening at Old Trafford. A lot of ex-players coming out in support of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, saying the board needs to back him and give him those signings. We've obviously had the transfer saga that is Jadon Sancho, with further developments this week of a big bid going in for around 90 million, which has been rejected by Dortmund. What's your take on this transfer strategy at Old Trafford then, Jamie?
Well, as someone from Liverpool, it's always difficult to give a full opinion on Manchester United, but I do have some experience at dealing with Manchester United over the years, and I think we spoke previously. It's still a surprise that they don't really have an official sporting director, technical director, to really have a hands-on approach to these transfers, because Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and when agents like ourselves are, you can link a player to one of the biggest clubs in the world, obviously that works in your favour. Now, from a club's perspective, you want to kind of minimise and keep this information and this interest as under the radar as possible. And Sancho's been on the radar, and I hate to use that term, that football term, but he's been on the radar for a long, long time now, and I think the price just keeps going up and up and up. So if they don't sign him this window, again, you've got the Euros in the summer. If he does play in that and he does well, then the price is only going to go up again. So they're really in a catch-22 situation. If they don't sign him, it looks bad for them. Can they match the valuation? I would imagine they could match it, but then there's a line in the sand where you go, well, as a club as big as ours, of course we're always going to pay a little bit more, but we don't want to start to look a bit silly in the transfer market now, and there's that kind of element to it. And if you look at Monkey at Sevilla, he's done a fantastic job. Michael Edwards at Liverpool, buying players for very in comparison small amounts, and already making a return because Klopp's brought them in. You've only got to look at like signing Van Dijk from a struggling team at Southampton, and for 30 odd million, and already he's worth over 100 million plus. So there's going to be a bit of savviness in the market, and I'm not sure Ed Woodward as chief executive is really going to be able to take that volume of calls on a daily basis to manage the pure volume of activity. One day it's on, one day it's not. But I believe, from just speaking to my contacts in the industry, that they've agreed terms in principle. The agent's fee's been agreed in principle. So it's between the two clubs now who's going to pay, who wants. And I mean, looking at the valuation, I think he's worth probably a lot more than what they're asking. So it might be some good business. There's probably a bit of gamesmanship going on at the moment, but they certainly got to sign a player or two, haven't they?
Yeah, I definitely think fans are crying out for some signings. Gary Neville's been quite critical as well of the board and not getting these deals done. But I've still got a feeling there might be a twist or two in this Jadon Sancho hunt before the end. My only thing would be, if United do pay the full asking price, it probably makes them look a bit weak to me at boardroom level, because Dortmund will have them over a barrel if they can get that full fee for him. And but the closer we get to that deadline, they're going to panic, and the calls are for United to make signings. I think they'll get Alex Telles done, the left back from Porto. I'd imagine that should be a bit more straightforward. But alternatives to Sancho then, Jamie, Ousmane Dembele at Barcelona, Edison Cavani, which one would you think would be a good one?
I mean, can you compare someone who's 20 years old to someone who's a lot older, valuation-wise? It's difficult to compare. I mean, the question would probably be for Sancho, really, is obviously he wants to come back to England and play and galvanise his place in the England squad. But, in the Bundesliga, the turnover of players is a lot less. In the Premier League, the turnover of players, the appearances per season, he's not going to play every game. He's in a good situation. He'd be coming here to play in an empty stadium. It's a difficult situation for all players now. I mean, you look at Cavani, they've been linked with, and Telles, and Of course, I'd love to come. They're at that end of the career now, 27, 28. I mean, Cavani's 33. But Dembele for me would be a great signing as well. You know, I like this. I like the players over in Spain as well. So difficult choice for them to make.
Yeah, big few final days coming from Manchester United in this transfer market. The current squad been question marks over whether they'll be good enough to finish in the top four, and that's got to be essential for Man United to be qualifying for the Champions League every season. So yeah, pressure's on Ed Woodward, Matt Judge, and the rest of that Manchester United transfer gurus who take all the decisions at Old Trafford right now. But yeah, as we said, Jay, it's been a difficult market so far this summer with everything that's going on in the world. Any late moves maybe for you, or have you found it deals just being blocked because of the finances?
I mean, like I said before, I mean, for step outside the Premier League, and I mean, even the Premier League are looking at salary conditions and salary caps and trying to. Everyone's balancing the books right now, so football's got a scenario whereby there's the Brexit issue. Let's not forget that. All of a sudden, we're forgetting that there's going to be probably not for the key players at elite level because they can make a case for that status. But there's the Brexit issue bubbling behind. Now you've got COVID. And we spoke about clubs trying to write in COVID clauses into contracts now, whereby I'm not sure to what extent that would be in effect to maybe a Sancho, but clubs are, and the PFA are involved in that, looking to if there's no fans for a period of the season, a third of your contract will be discounted until maybe 70% of fans are returned. Now I think we all agree that this season there's probably not going to be any fans allowed back in. So where does that leave players who've signed, these agreements whereby maybe it was suspended for a 6-month or even a 12-month period? There's a big question mark over that. But clubs are being a lot more savvy now in the market, and that's being reflected in the big clubs, cutting their cloth accordingly, reducing massive squad numbers, massive squad numbers. But for us, we broker a lot of deals between clubs as well, between Spain and the UK. So for us, as an agent, you're always going to be busy one way or the other. For players doing well, it's an easy job. But again, if they're not doing so well, then you've got to look to move them on and go and play the football somewhere else. So the agent's always got a role in the game. And I think if you look at the Sancho situation, Dortmund insisted that he use an agent and an intermediary just to make sure they got solved. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of activity left to do in this window for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement, Jay. There's still lots to do for a lot of clubs who need a lot of surgery to their squads, in and out, really. I think could be lots of clubs trying to be inventive in the final few days of the window, maybe swap deals, loan deals, everything like that. And it's going to be one of those. Talking of loan deals, one player who looks like he could be on his way out on loan is Tottenham's Ryan Sessegnon. He's dropped well down the pecking order under Jose Mourinho. Came from Fulham, a lot of fanfare when he arrived, £25 million deal. He was talked about as the big, bright hope for English football after impressing for Fulham when he came through there. But what do you think's happened to him, Jamie? What do you think's happened to Ryan Sessegnon that he's fallen down the pecking order so much? And where do you think he'll end up before Monday's deadline?
Well, I mean, again, I can't talk for Ryan personally, but I mean, I think he's I think he's probably one of the quickest players in the Premier League, isn't he? On the left-hand side. 106 games in 3 seasons for Fulham. It's no surprise he got a move on the back of that. Promoted, established himself in the team. Obviously, they probably know him inside out, down the next door neighbours, aren't they, Fulham and Tottenham? So I thought it was a fantastic move for him. And let's not forget, he's only 20 years old. So I think Mourinho, he's that type of manager, isn't he? We all know what he's about. He wants fighters who can go in and be a bit ugly at times. And, is a 20, 21-year-old, albeit with a hell of a lot of experience, probably in that, what he's looking to do this season, So I believe he's been linked with, I think, Leeds United. I think Victor Orta's been watching him closely up at Leeds. And Celtic have been vocal in the press about him. And I'm not sure he'd want to go up to Scotland and play his football. But Leeds United are playing some fantastic football. I watched them against Liverpool beginning of the season, and the heart was fluttering. And I thought, this could be a great team for Leeds this season. But yeah, surely he's a big player. You'd want him to be playing first team football. I mean, if Leeds can capture somebody like Ryan, I think it'd be a big signing for them for sure.
Yeah, like you said, mate, I think he'd be a good fit for Leeds United, Sessegnon, with the way that Bielsa plays his football, with the speed and high press and everything else. But also, we know there could be other ones as well in the race for him. I've heard Southampton interested as well for him to play at left back. We've also got Brighton possibly, and you mentioned Celtic, but I've got a sneaky feeling we might see some interest from abroad for Sessegnon before Monday's deadline. He's well liked by some of the top clubs abroad. So do you think going abroad would be a good move from Jay?
Well, look at Sancho going to the Bundesliga. We go back to that, swings and roundabouts again. I mean, Sessegnon, he's got a long-term contract. So if he go and learn some football on the continent, is that going to do him any harm? Probably not. He's got a good reputation in Germany. I think he played in the Champions League, didn't he? He played against Bayern Munich, and the comments were, he lashed the shot past like nowhere, and he was like, "What the hell's going on here? Who's this kid?" So he's certainly well regarded over in the Bundesliga. I wouldn't imagine he'd have any difficulty. It'd probably be down to person. From a Mourinho perspective, is he going to want to let him go to a rival? Probably not. No. And there you go. So, I mean, Frimpong's on the right-hand side up at Celtic. You got on the left. That could be quite nice. But, probably like to stay in England if I was him. But
yeah. I think first choice probably will be to stay in the Premier League. But, yeah, I think there'll be plenty of takers abroad, Bundesliga, probably France, and there's been even talk of Ajax as well. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on, that Ryan Sessegnon future, to see where he does end up. Also, sticking with Spurs, there's never a day without a headline about Dele Alli right now. It seems like
I mean, it's Spurs at the moment, isn't it? What's going on?
Just the way Jose likes it, talking about Spurs. But yeah, Dele Alli left out again in midweek for that cup game against Chelsea. Talk of maybe PSG, talk of a bust up with Mourinho. Do you think he should leave Tottenham, Dele Alli, just to go out and play football?
Well, big questions, Pete. Big questions. Very big questions. I mean, Dele Alli, what a player. I do like, I like him a lot as a player. I mean, I remember, we can go back as far as, MK Dons. He's always been a great player, and he's really established himself in that Tottenham team. But again, like we said before, Mourinho is looking for, players in the midfield who can really stamp their authority on the game. And I think in some games, Dele, he's just drifted. He's not really put the work in for the team that Mourinho probably like him to. So as big a name as Dele Alli is, 50 million for a player who's, still only 24, 25 years old. Daniel Levy is a good businessman. You'd be looking to balance the books. You brought in Gareth Bale. There's talk of bringing in a lot more. You've got to be clever in the market, Pete. So I like Dele Alli a lot. I think there's talk about him going to PSG. One of his teammates has obviously played there before, Serge Aurier. We obviously had a good chat with him and told him what it's like over in Paris. But again, Mourinho's not going to want him to go to a rival, top player, But look at the midfields now in the Premier League, all the top six, they're very strong. Where's he going to go? So he's going to go anywhere. It's going to go overseas, and maybe then he'll come back and there'll be that club between him and the next big move. But it'd be sad to see him leave the Premier League, I think. He's done a fantastic job for Tottenham, but is he really that Mourinho-type player? I think he's been quite vocal in the press, hasn't he, about his... but then he's been putting his arm around the shoulder at the same time, so...
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting one, the Dele Alli situation. Like you said, it doesn't seem to fit the model for what Jose Mourinho wants in a player. He's a bit of a luxury player, Dele Alli, most days. But on his day, world-class performer, and I'm sure if he is available before Monday's deadline, there'll be plenty of takers for him as well. And he might think, I want to go and play football this year ahead of the Euros if he wants to get back in that England squad. He's been left out of the most recent squad by Gareth Southgate again. So big few months coming up for Dele Alli. Will he try and sit it out and see if he can... see if Jose Mourinho maybe loses his job at Tottenham, because I'm sure there'll be a bit of pressure on him as well. So it's going to be interesting times for Dele Alli ahead again. He was the golden boy of English football not long ago, so he definitely won't want to be forgotten about anytime soon as well. Also another player, Jay, that been talked a lot about in the transfer rumours this summer. Josh King of Bournemouth. Obviously, they got relegated. He hasn't moved. He's seen others move, the likes of Ake, Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser left on a free transfer. Still hasn't found a club, Josh King, despite being linked with lots of clubs, the likes of Man United, Tottenham. We've got all sorts, maybe foreign clubs as well. My take on this is that Bournemouth won't sell him on the cheap. They want £20 million for him. That's put off a lot of clubs. I think Torino are the latest club linked with him. Are you surprised this one hasn't been settled yet and Josh King nowhere, not found a new club yet?
Well, there's still some time in the window. You find that a lot of the big deals sometimes go to the end, but because maybe there's some discussion over the fees and whatnot. But I mean, I like Josh King. I mean, so if you look at a forward player like Josh King, you know, look at his CV where he's been. He's been everywhere, hasn't he? He was at Man United. Well, he was over in Norway. Ollie Solskjaer was a reserve team manager at Man United. You know, gave him his debut against Wolves in the Cup, and he's just gone on from there. Great shout at Blackburn. And if you look, he's only 28 years old, Josh. So he's probably not going to have much resale value after this, which is probably why, you know, the fee's not extraordinary. But £15 million for a, you know, arguably proven player in the Premier League, over 50 goals, energy. He looks young for his age. I think he can play in a couple of positions. I think there's a bit to do on this one. I'd like to see him stay in England, but again, like you said, Torino have been interested in him. I believe Tottenham have been interested in him in that number 9 role. Yep. Obviously, Harry Kane potentially could pick up a niggle here and there, and for 15 million, that's not bad business, is it, in this market?
No. Yeah, I think it'd be a good signing for somebody, and also to take into consideration, he's out of contract at the next summer, so he could possibly sign a pre-contract in a couple of months. We're in October now, and he could sign a pre-contract with any of those foreign clubs come January time. So dangerous game Bournemouth are playing right now, trying to hold out for this £20 million fee. But I think there'll be a few bids probably in for Josh King before Monday's deadline, whether that be from Premier League clubs such as Tottenham or maybe somebody from abroad. I know Red Bull Leipzig bid for him as well, which was rejected. We've also got Torino showing interest in him as well. But yeah, the Norwegian international, I'm sure there'll be a few bids for his signature before next Monday's deadline. Josh King, one of his former teammates, Harry Wilson at Liverpool now, who had a good spell on loan at Bournemouth. He seems to be on the market. He's not figured for Jurgen Klopp's side since he's returned to Anfield after that loan move at Bournemouth. Talk of Burnley in talks with Liverpool for the Wales international. I think it's pretty evident, Jay, that Harry Wilson won't be breaking into that Liverpool team anytime soon. Burnley, do you think that would be a good fit for him?
Well, Sean Dyche is getting the best out of players, isn't he? If you look at what he's done, and I spoke to Sean many times over the last couple of seasons, and completely humble, little old Burnley, but they've done a fantastic job. He's kept them up. I don't know how he does it. It's incredible, but they do have a budget. He fits within that. You look at the Liverpool midfield. Thiago has just come in and just looked unbelievable already. So, as much as Liverpool like to play the young players, Harry Wilson's in football terms and Liverpool terms not so young anymore. So I'd like to see him go out and play his football. He's a Welsh international, so let's see what happens with that. But Burnley, I think it'd be a great move, and he's going to play games, and that's the key, isn't it? When you're a young footballer, all the players we spoke about, if you're not playing football, then your value's only going to go down, isn't it? So, especially as an international.
Yeah, and he's got to be frustrated, Wilson, with what's going on at Liverpool. He's not really had that chance, so I think it's time for him to go out there and find a new home on a permanent basis. And I think Burnley be a good fit for him. Him and Dwight McNeil on the wings would provide plenty of ammunition for the likes of Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes. And Sean Dyche, as we all know, has been desperate to bring in more players to strengthen his squad, as it's been decimated by injuries, probably one of the thinnest squads in the Premier League. So I would fully expect that deal to get done by next Monday. I think.
He's in essence, he's a homegrown player. I mean, it's all well and good looking over into Spain and Germany and all these things, but this season, you speak to any manager and you'll say, right, we need these signings to be nailed on. We can't have players who need 6 months to settle in. These players have to be nailed on. So you look at Harry Wilson, you go, there's a strong chance he'd come straight in and play on Saturday. You know, so they're the type of players now who are starting to become more interesting because the Josh Kings, Harry Wilsons, you know, they've been there, they've done it. You know, they've got the experience. They haven't got to come in and settle in. And it's very testing times at the moment, and these are players who have become very, very interesting for clubs who are looking to strengthen.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. Tried and trusted. They know the Premier League, so Harry Wilson, I think, would be a good signing for plenty of clubs before the window shuts on Monday. Probably moving on then, Jed, to one of the strangest transfer links in recent days is probably this Antonio Rudiger possibly leaving Chelsea. He's not figured so far for Frank Lampard. Not sure if something's going on in the background with this one. Seems like they just want rid of Rudiger, and the latest talk seems to be Tottenham could be.
Tottenham again, Pete.
Sorry, Paul?
Tottenham again.
Yeah, Tottenham again, man. Might as well just call this podcast the Tottenham podcast, really. But yeah, it's a strange one for me because I think Rudiger on his day is probably Chelsea's best centre back. So to get rid of him with their defensive issues doesn't add up to me. But obviously something's happened. But the Tottenham one, I just can't see this one for the life of me, even though lots of rumours about it. Why would, like you said earlier in the podcast, Jay, why would Jose Mourinho strengthen one of his rivals? Chelsea, why would they strengthen one of the rivals like Jose Mourinho wouldn't do if he was in Tottenham? So Rudiger, top-class player for me. I think if he were to go to Tottenham, he would definitely improve their defence. What's your take on all this transfer talk with him then?
Well, obviously Frank and Jose Mourinho have a very good relationship, so I'm sure it's very easy to talk to each other in regard to players. But I believe Thiago Silva's come in to try and help with the back four, you know, and maybe they've thought, you know, it's just not part of the plans for the season. And if we can get someone off the wage bill and let it go, are Chelsea and Tottenham going head to head this season? Who knows? But I think it's a savvy bit of business. I mean, obviously Mourinho knows him inside out. I think the key to this one is Chelsea have asked him to extend his contract by a further season, obviously so they don't lose value. So that might be the stumbling block on that one. Can they agree terms and get him out in the next few days? Might be a stretch too far, but certainly a good player.
Yeah, good player, Rudiger. Again, like a lot of players coming up to these final few days of the window, probably looking ahead. They've got the Euros next summer. He's got Germany to think about. He'll be looking to play regular first-team football to keep his place in that squad as well. Yeah, I think a loan's probably the best option for Rudiger right now if he's not in Frank Lampard's plans. Also talked that Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain also interested in him as well. So yeah, he's going to be an interesting transfer target to keep an eye on over the next few days as we get ever closer to the transfer window shutting at 11 p.m. on Monday. But yeah, thanks, Jay, for your time today and for your insight. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll have a few more deals to be done before the end of the window, and I'm sure the phone calls will be coming in left, right and centre before next Monday. But yeah, that's us for today. Tune in next week and we'll have another episode of the Rumour Review when we'll probably review the transfer market this summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Take care.